Nicholas, my God, for a first-time event for you, you got it. You've got that look, and you're going to be that director and that writer that people are going to watch. My God.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
What was that journey like for you to take it, first of all, to plant it on a page and then take the idea out to say, I'm making a movie and this is going to be that movie?
Whether it's, absolute stupidity, naivete, ignorance, luck, skill, whatever you want to call it. I just, this is what I want to do. I wrote the film that I wanted to make, and I made a film I wanted to watch. And, that's where we are. So it was, I had to do it. So I didn't have a choice.
Who was that 13-year-old kid that you were doing? I realize it was you, but what was the thing that he was looking for in movies that you felt like, okay, this is the movie for him?
I mean, I talk about that a lot as the beginning of this whole thing. My fascination with film and everything was in my friend's basement in Pennsylvania. Literally, we went to the rental store, and it's like, the kid was probably 16 years old, and he like slid the cassette over. It's like, you boys need to watch this. And it's Reservoir Dogs. And, it's like, it's rated R, though. I don't know if we should. And I remember watching that VHS and just jaw on the floor. It was absolutely everything that I, first of all, didn't know movies could be. I didn't know cinema could be that, but then everything that I wanted out of a film. And I just remember it changed everything for me. Before that, it was big, and it was the 80s films, and it was Die Hard, and it was, it was just all the films that we absolutely love and we still love, but it wasn't Reservoir Dogs. It wasn't the independent Renaissance and the neo-noir and the brutality. And I fell in love with that.
Well, you create conflict right from the very beginning. I mean, when the new preacher comes to town and right away he's not trusted, it's like, oh, sit back. This is going to be a ride.
Yeah, it's, I say that I didn't, it's not a unfamiliar story. I didn't want to tell a new story no one's seen before. It's a heist gone wrong film. That is a very, very standard, familiar trope. But I wanted to use that as a background to tell a more personal, intense story between the characters and between their struggle with good, right and wrong, good and evil, and how that translates through their actions throughout the film.
The movie we're talking about is Mobland, which is now available digitally as well as movies on demand. The thing about this, the storyline here is the fact that it feels like it's real America. I realize that you're in Alabama. I grew up in Montana, and drugs up there are a part of the agriculture. And I'm here in the Carolinas now, and I really felt like that you came here to my town to talk about something that's going on.
Yeah, it's, I think... I love uniquely American stories, and I especially love uniquely American settings, landscapes, locations. So especially the Rust Belt, and then the South it just feels so incredibly uniquely American. And then when you throw into that some fairly uniquely American epidemics, whether it's opioids or the economy and jobs leaving these small towns. Mm-hmm. It makes for a really interesting setting landscape to tell this type of story.
I'm glad I did research on you before I watched the movie in the way that I understand the cars in the movie, because they're a major part of this storyline as well. But when you hear your story about, when you went to Alabama to, for the races and things like that, it's like, okay, now I get it. Now, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, I'm a car guy. I love cars. And then I also love the South. Both parents born and raised in Mississippi. The South is very familiar to me. I understand the people. I understand the typical Brits throughout the South anyway. So I knew I wanted to use that also as more of a backdrop. But I spend a lot of time and effort to get the cars right in the film. Mm-hmm. And I think any car guy, whether you're GM or Mopar, who whatever you're into, I think you're going to watch this and you're going to go, oh yeah, they did right. It's not the brand new 68, 69 Camaro. It's it's the Duster. It's the right car. So I had a lot of fun obsessing over the cars.
Sheriffs are usually given either a good rap or a bad rap. Travolta puts himself inside this movie in a way where you go, I love him. I've got to have more of him, but do I trust him? And so you find yourself attracted to that character.
Yeah, and I think you could probably say that about all the characters, and
Yeah.
that's, what I set out to do is that, they're the blurring the line between the antagonist and protagonist is really the whole point of the film. Um, Whether you do good for bad reasons or do bad for good reasons, does it matter? And does that affect truly who you are as a human and as a human, and how you treat other people? So, every character struggles with that, whether you're the sheriff, whether you're, Stephen Dorff's character coming from the mob, whether you're Shiloh, a small town father, they're all kind of battling, making these decisions that define or that should define if they're good or bad. But, they're not really sure which one it is.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you really, depict survival inside this, I mean, and the struggle itself, I mean, you either survive or you break the law. That in itself is just so intense. And I think it's part of the candy, basically, that kept me so attracted to that screen.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that all of the violence, all of the, the decisions made, I wanted the audience to have a sense of empathy with that. I wanted nothing to be so far gone that the average person couldn't see themselves maybe making the same decision in that situation. But at the same time, really pushing those limits to where it was very, very uncomfortable to watch. But still think like, damn, I might do that same thing in that situation.
How did you write out the scene where Rob is they're trying to convince Rob to rob the Oxy plant? Because, I mean, that in itself, I mean, I as a writer myself, those are the scenes that I have to come back to several times to see if I'm getting the emotion right.
No, I didn't know who was going to play Trey at the time.
Okay.
So it was I had an idea of who these characters were, obviously, because, I wrote it, but, it just kind of flowed. As a writer, you understand that every single character is also you 100%.
Yep.
And so putting myself in those situations and really coming from, a place of empathy that I think every writer has to do, that's how I did it. It was really just how would I, if I were Trey and I were in this situation in this town with my family, how would I talk someone into doing this while truly believing it's the righteous thing to do?
I think one of the greatest things that happened that wasn't filmed was John Travolta sitting down with you saying, "Why do you want to make this movie?" See, that to me is a connection.
That was that's what I loved about John. I love that he wasn't as concerned, I don't think, about, hey, are you going to make me look cool? Are you going to screw this up? Are you going to finish this story? Do we have to work? The very first conversation I had with him was, why do you feel compelled to tell this story? Why do you think Bodhi is the character he is? Why does he make those decisions? They were very personal and very passionate and artistically driven questions. And I really love that about it, that our first conversation, it was a very, very personal conversation right out the gate. And I think that as a movie star, if he's to the point where he's going to have a conversation with a first-time director on a small budget independent film, he's already committed to some degree. And so he's beyond saying maybe yes or no. And it's like, hey, let's really get to the heart of this so we can work together. So
did you have to play by those indie rules, get those shots as quickly as possible because time is money?
Oh my God, you have no clue. I mean, that's all it was. It was, principal photography was 11 days. It was, which is, if anyone knows anything about filmmaking, is borderline reckless. It was so incredibly fast. And without the cast I had and the crew as well, being so prepared, there's just no chance we would have gotten half the film we were able to get and really tell the story that we wanted to tell. So yeah, it was, time is always money, and on an 11-day schedule with literally shoestring budget, it is very evident that time is money.
I remember when Lionsgate first appeared on the movie scene, and now look at them growing. I mean, what is it like to sit down with these guys at Lionsgate and say, hey, look, I've got a movie that I think you need to support?
I was lucky enough to be shielded some degree by my producer. He is the one who had all those conversations. My producer, Corey Large, put me in a great position where it's like, hey, I'm going to take care of all the BS. I'm going to put you in a position to, give you everything you need within budget and schedule, to do your best job and deliver a product. So, I really didn't have to deal with too much of the politics, the minutia. I got to really focus on just making the film.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand the business side of movie making. I mean, the shaking the hands, the kissing the babies. Once the film is done, you've got trade screenings. You've got to go over here and you've got to show it off here. You've got critic screenings. You've got to put it out there for people.
I mean, the press I'm doing now. I mean, the entire thing is a business. I mean, make no mistake about this. People are passionate about filmmaking across the board, no matter if they're a large studio, small, but it's a business. We're here to make money. We're selling a product. We're getting ticket sales and VOD sales. That's what this is. Lionsgate, Saban, no one's going to touch this if they don't think they can make money from it. Yeah. That being said, it's always nice to have some passionate people behind you who also care about the artistic side of filmmaking. But, this is a business through and through. And I think, somebody like me coming from commercial photography, advertising, directing, I understand selling a product, and I know that that's part of it. And so playing the game, doing the press, everything that goes along with it, kissing the babies, like you said, it's all a part of it. Could
you have turned this into a 6-part series and put it on Hulu or Netflix? Because the story feels like that there could be more, because there's background characters, to know more about the town, to know more about, different action scenes that were taken.
Yeah, I mean, I love episodic TV. I love miniseries. I would absolutely love to do one of those at some point. I never saw this as being one of those. I always saw it as, how can I tell this story in an hour and 45 hour, 50 minutes? How can I cram everything that I want into it? And, I actually wanted there to be a pretty definitive end to it. So there's no sequels. I'll be honest, I was going to officially, or at first I was going to name this film "Everyone Dies" because, and not to give anything away, but most everyone dies, and I think that's kind of part of the story, is that it's not only the death of the American dream, and I wanted there to be very, very. I wanted there to be full resolution in the characters, but not in the themes. And I think that's kind of thematically what the story is.
Not to give anything away, but I'll tell you what, though, there's still something that I carry inside my head and my heart, and I hear it in my ears, the final sound of the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but my God, dude, I'm still carrying that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, I wrote it that way. I really, people say that there's 3 movies: the movie you write, the movie you shoot, the movie that's on screen. And for me, it was, I wrote the film I shot, and the film I shot is on screen. And, always knew that's how the film was going to end. I love that about it. I wanted it to be definitive. Yeah. And, it's been fun to see people react to it and react to the ending and kind of, I love those films when the lights come on, the credits roll, and everyone just kind of stands there, looking around. It's like, they don't know how to feel. They maybe want to clap. They maybe want to be pissed off at me. But I love that. I love that it leaves you kind of in this this gray area of, I think, morality. And I think that's really fun.
Oh my God, dude. I sat there. My wife was ready to go, and I said, no. Sit down. I have to really kind of just hold on to this. I need to put myself back into a real world here.
Yeah. And what I love is Jason Dodson, who's the singer of a band called the Maldives. He recorded that song for me in his laundry room after reading the script.
Really?
And I love that. That's the song that plays at the credits. And he wrote it for the script, he wrote it for the film, and I had him do it for the end credits. So there's a lot in that song as well. And I do feel like that the song, the color of the credits, everything is, for me, it's as important as the rest of the film, at least as an ending to it, because I do think that it's a little bit of a little bit of a prologue. It's a little bit of an epilogue. It's a little bit of an ending with that song. Yeah.
Speaking of the color of the background, how about that scene with Travolta with the red in the background? Dude, that's a poster right there, man.
Oh God. That was, we go into this room, we scout the location, and I knew I wanted to paint that room. The same thing with the mural in the pill clinic. Mm-hmm. I knew I wanted that. And funny enough, I always saw that room as being blue. and it's, it's in the trailer, so it doesn't give anything away. It's a red room. But the more I started in pre-production, it's the color red plays a very, very specific and big role in this film. And having that red room and having the size of that room and the amount of action that takes place in this room during the robbery and after is just so incredibly unsettling. But also there's something very, very beautiful and cinematic about it. So I really love that. It's one of my favorite scenes with Travolta, just because it looks so good, and that's because of my DP. But it's also it's so brutal. Yeah, it's a harsh scene, even though it's a quiet, a little introspective for Travolta's character. It's still a very brutal scene because of that color.
The song, "The House of the Rising Sun," you went totally 100% original with it. My God, and it kind of sneaks up on you into the movie.
So yeah, this came from necessity. When you're doing a low budget independent film, how do we get songs? So almost every song outside of the score is a friend of mine. It's a band that I know. Wow. It's somebody giving me music, or it's me reaching out to a band that I don't know and saying, "Hey, I would love to use this song." So, House of the Rising Sun is public domain. It was recorded, I think, originally in the 20s. The Animals version that we know is, of course, copywritten. So you can't use their arrangement, but the song itself is not. So that's always been a song that I knew it was in public domain. I knew that I loved it. And once I started dabbling with that song and I was using the Animals version as a placeholder, a friend hooked me up with Devin McCluskey, the singer who recorded that. I sent him the clip, and within maybe 5, 6, 7 hours, he had that version back to me.
Oh my God.
He loved the scene that I sent him, and I listened to it and I was like, good God, like that's it. Like it's so haunting, and his voice is so great for it. It was the perfect song, I think. And it wasn't just, like I said, it came from necessity, because I needed a song I didn't have to pay for. But then calling in the flavor, that song wouldn't have been a quarter of what it is if it wasn't for Devin McCluskey's vocals.
Wow. Nicholas, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
And thank you so much for having me. That was a blast. Really appreciate the time.
Man, I'll tell you what, I'm truly going to be following you, because, you've got movie making down, and it's just going to be fun to watch you grow.
I really appreciate that, man. I can't wait to do another one and be back on the show.
Absolutely. Be brilliant today, sir.
All right, buddy. Take care.